I've got a little something for you, everybody. Welcome to the Football Ramble preview show. Luton are hosting a Premier League match tonight. It's Friday, 1st of September. I'm Marcus Speller.
I'm Luke Moore.
And I'm Jim Campbell.
Welcome, one and all, to the Football Ramble preview show. My goodness, it's good to have you with us. Now, we're recording this episode slightly early this week, and as a result, Andy and Luke will react to the Champions League draw on the special post-deadline day Ramble Reacts that we're bringing you around lunchtime on Saturday.
Yes, no rush for the wicked. I'll be working tomorrow as well.
My goodness.
And I'll be trying to keep Andy to the point. Probably failing. But we'll do a lot on transfers and we'll do a lot on the Champions League draw as it pertains to the English teams.
Yes.
So look out for that tomorrow.
And if anything crazy happens in Europa League qualifying or anything like that, you'll pick up the pieces.
I will. I'll pick up all the pieces.
Yeah, you are. You're a piece picker-upper.
I am. Look at what I do, Marcus, is look for those little truffles.
Yeah.
Those little morsels.
Sniff them out.
Just
like
like
Luke
Luton.
morsels.
Yeah, Luke morsels.
Luton Town.
That's what I should call them, Luke morsels. I'll find them. I don't want to be doing all the work myself, though. That's the problem.
But you do, though,
It's a work in progress.
It is, yeah.
Luke Moore, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
I knew you were going to ask me this, and so what I was thinking about doing was just rapidly trying to think of something because I couldn't think of anything before.
Right.
I'm probably going to go for Portsmouth, repeat or revenge, playing Peterborough this weekend, who knocked them out of the old in the midweek on Panolas.
That's the cup,
Pompey,
isn't it?
Pompey got a chance to repeat or revenge. I hope it's revenge. No one else cares. Will the referee be injured? We don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. But if they are going to go,
now, isn't it?
if they are going to go down to the dangerous south coast, just like Matt Letizia found out the other day, it's not for the faint-hearted.
He's been down to the South Coast loads of times.
I wish I had another Matt Letizia newsletter for you, but I'm afraid I don't.
I'm glad you don't.
Just one a week. Isn't it?
And also, no doubt, Portsmouth will be very, very welcoming to a team who are nicknamed the Posh.
Yes, I'm sure they will.
I'm sure they
Yeah,
will.
They've famously not got a chip on their shoulder about that kind of thing.
Jim Campbell, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
I am looking forward to the slightly bewildered, slightly terrified look in the eyes of a player who did know that they would be moving in the morning of deadline day. There's always a couple every year where you can see it's like, what the hell? Where am I?
I thought you were going to go for a specific name there.
Well, we don't know who it's going to be because they don't know who it's going to be yet.
Yeah, there has been a few. I mean, it is quite mad, isn't it? When you hear like some big players say, they're training in the morning. I think David Luiz, when he was at Benfica, he's literally on the training ground with his mates, and then he's told, right, off you go, and he's like, no, in the car.
Nowhere to live.
Yeah, I mean, he has consented. We're not saying he was kidnapped, by the way, by the officials
in a boat.
Can I also just say on the Matt Letizia newsletter thing, very quickly.
What you're giving this a lot of airtime.
I completely forgot that on Wednesday when I talked about it, I forgot to mention that in the most recent Matt Letizia newsletter, not only did he say he visited Gunwharf Quays in Portsmouth, which is obviously a very surprising development, but he also found himself at an event recently with guitarist and songwriter Mike Rutherford of Genesis and Mike and the Mechanics.
So middle-aged.
There's a lot of people who won't remember Matt Letizia playing career, and they won't have a clue who that person is.
They can look it up. They've got the internet in their palm of their hand.
Is that what we want to be known for? Listen to this podcast and you're given homework. Crap homework.
Are these the Luke morsels?
Crap homework is the name of my band, actually. I just wanted to say, when I read that Matt Letizia was hanging out having lunch with Mike Rutherford of Genesis at a Donald Trump golf course, I thought to myself, I think this might be the absolute nadir of humanity.
Okay.
I don't think my life has been any worse than this.
I see.
And I'm a fairly new father.
You are, yeah.
So that's how bad the impact was.
My goodness.
So if you ask me what I'm looking forward to this weekend...
Right, I already have, and you've answered.
It's probably rereading that newsletter where he played golf with Gianfranco Zola, Roberto Di Matteo, Teddy Sheringham, and Mike Rutherford from Genesis.
Really falls off a cliff, doesn't it? Towards the end.
Yeah.
It does. I'm looking forward to tonight's match at Kenilworth Road.
We all are.
Luton Town hosting West
That's an obvious
Ham.
one. That's an obvious one. We're all looking forward to that one.
Yeah. More importantly, Luke, it's a footballing one.
It is.
It gets us back on track, doesn't it?
When will I learn? When will I learn?
Hopefully within the next 15 or 16 years of doing this podcast. But yes, it's Luton's first Premier League game at the famous Kenilworth Road. Should we call it famous, Jim, or should we call it infamous?
Famous for now, but we'll see how it gets on, I suppose.
Okay, fair enough.
I think it deserves a bit more respect. I think Brassell's been very unkind about it.
Why? It's a crap little ground, Luke.
What are you talking? Listen,
I don't think people are disrespecting it, are they?
Andy Brassell was.
Well,
on Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah,
sometimes the mask slips with Brassell, doesn't it? He
does.
seems measured and he seems nice, but he's an absolute fucking monster. And occasionally that slips out.
No, I've never been there, and clearly it is a throwback, isn't it? Which we enjoy, and I think that's
what's so great about it.
Yeah, one of the reasons why people like going to Craven Cottage. I think that is a bit of a throwback. I know they've got a new stand now, which is not fully open, but. Craven Cottage is not, it's not the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium or the Emirates
Certainly
or anything like that, But there's an oldie worldy quality about it.
Yeah, Craven Cottage has been there since the late 18th century. It was only became a football ground in the late 19th century.
It was a royal hunting lodge for many moons. But a better comparison might be Loftus Road. And Loftus Road, it has its charms.
I love it.
Yeah, but do you know? I think because it is a bit of a throwback, but the seats are a little bit uncomfortable. There's no glamour there. But as you know, if you go and see a band where there's a sticky floor and warm lemonade, you think, my goodness, we're away.
I don't really quite know where to go with that.
I don't either.
No, I get criticised for mentioning Mike Rutherford.
What have I mentioned? Sticky floors is a classic trope of a small place.
Where's warm lemonade come from?
Well, people would say warm lager.
Do you bring your own?
Yeah,
do you bring your own along?
Yeah, it's clutched to my body.
Just
it
your
just
pocket.
warms up.
Yeah. Your pocket full
A
up
little
with
hip
it.
flask.
Anyway, Kenilworth
Road's been there since. What I wanted to say was
Please.
Kenilworth Road has been there since 1905.
Right.
And a lot of the criticism we hear about modern stadiums is they're soulless. They could be like airport lounges. Whenever you go to a big new stadium, just despite the quality of it, it can feel very soulless. This is the other end of the scale. The record attendance for Luton is only like 30-odd thousand. I think the official capacity now is just over 10,000. It's a different experience.
Which is crazy for Premier League. I mean, Bournemouth's would be the only other one of a similar sort of size.
Yes.
Although Bournemouth is a little bit more than that. So indeed, I mean, I quite liked it on the Ramble Luton documentary when Luton's CEO Gary Sweet described it as putting the old girl in her best dress one last time.
Because they're going to get a new stadium, I guess, at some point.
Yeah, and we've already seen some of the pitfalls with this old stadium, having to delay the start of the
they
season.
literally couldn't play games there.
Indeed,
That's the downside.
That's how charming we are.
You can't play in it.
Yeah.
It's great stadium. Great old stadium. You want to have a look? You can't play in it.
It's effectively a glorified bar.
Yeah, so
with a bit of football.
Tiny town with an economy based on hats that for some reason has an airport.
It's great.
A very weird place.
It's great. I think it's great.
West Ham turning up. Buoyant West Ham.
They are going to turn up, are they?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. Especially
it'd
after
be
last
very disrespectful to Luton if the teams aren't even bothering to do that.
We're not
They're only
coming.
gonna turn them
Oh,
over.
you think you're going to play your first game?
yeah.
Well, it takes two to tango.
We're not coming. Hear me out. Draw. Take it now. Point each.
Tell you what.
Either way, we're not coming.
That's right.
Yeah.
West Ham fans, they'll be in the Oak Road end, of course. If you are going to host your first Premier League game, are they the fans that you'd want turning up?
Based on my experience in working at the first off licence on the last stop of the District Line route, no.
Yeah, you used to
absolutely
have to
not.
deal with a lot of West Ham fans
Yeah.
post and pre-game, didn't you?
I did, yes.
I can't imagine you doing that job. Was it frightening?
It was just, it was a lot. It was relentless.
Yeah. How old were you at the time?
I would have been early 20s, I think.
Yeah.
You were very tough in your early 20s.
Oh, yeah.
As you've got older.
I battered a lot of them as they came in. Fearsome reputation around
Indeed,
there.
yeah.
They call me body bag around there. Those days feel a
Ball
long time
bag.
ago.
you managed to get out, and here you are at the table with Luke and I. But David Moyes' men are second, only behind Manchester City. They've started the season very well, Luke Moore.
Yeah.
They'll be going there thinking, we're going to turn over these little minnows, but Luton will have other ideas.
I watched Brighton's defeat at home to West Ham last weekend, Saturday night, in my local curry house.
Oh.
When I was waiting for a table.
Football on at the Curry House?
Yeah, there's a little bar bit.
Glorious.
Yeah, we were all watching it. Very surprising. Very surprising result. But West Ham started the season very well, as you've mentioned. And I think it was on Monday, possibly last week, Jim was sat there and he said it's a classic kind of David Moyes team reaction type season start. Because clearly the Conference League became the priority last season, and that was they've all basically all but admitted that they've they kind of took their eye off the ball, and that became the priority instead. But they're packing the best lone frontman in the league up front, who proved that to be the case last Saturday. Is he going to prove it again at Kenilworth Road? It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because if you look at the type of career that Mikel Antonio's had, he's played at these stadiums. I'm not sure if he's definitely played at Kenilworth Road, but he's played at several of these types of stadiums. He came up as a footballer that way. Will he relish a revisit of that kind of thing on under the Friday night lights? I think he will, and I think it will be a big test for Luton. But here's what I also think. If they want any chance at all of staying in this division this season, they have to turn that stadium into an absolute castle.
Yeah.
They have to pick up as many points as possible at home, and they probably need to start tonight.
It's not big enough to be a castle, though, is it?
Yeah, more of a kind of
10,000 people in there. That's a decent sized castle.
No, but if you're bringing that analogy, if you like, or whatever the word would be to Premier League, a castle would be like Old
a fort.
Trafford or
A fort.
a fort.
I didn't want to say fortress because everyone says that.
They do say that.
And fort is admittedly short for fortress, so I've fallen into my own trap there.
Let's call it.
You said castle and he pulled you up on it.
Yeah.
So
Let's lodge.
A lodge.
Yeah.
You want your stadium to be a lodge?
Doesn't sound intimidating.
You absolutely don't want
We'll have a
that.
lovely time. Yeah.
Freemason Fulham.
Yeah. Oh, it's a spa. It's an absolute spa of a destination.
Yeah, that's Fulham. That'll be when the swimming pool.
You've got to turn this stadium this season into a fucking retreat. That's what you got to do. Into a spa.
Exactly. That's what you got to do.
Will Kenilworth Road be a spa this season?
I hope so.
Yeah.
For
Andrew Tate on the pitch at half time.
Oh, come on.
He's a Luton man.
He is, yeah.
He's a Luton man.
Right.
Just saying.
Name another Luton man who's a shocking piece of work. You can think of one, can't you?
Tiggy Rainbow.
Leave Tiggy out of it.
Tiggy Rainbow's from Luton, wasn't he?
Is he?
Big Luton fan.
Yeah, nobody knows who Tiggy Rainbow is apart from
a man
the
we
three
went to
of us.
university with.
Old time Ramble fans will know who he is.
They'll be going crazy, won't they, for that
will.
reference?
There we go. Deep cut
He played at Wembley, to be fair.
for Owlsey Town in the FA Vars
It all
final.
makes sense in the end,
Yeah,
Jim.
yeah.
Jim, do you give Luton any hope here?
I probably not, given the West Ham's form and their start to the season. But as Luke says, they absolutely have to turn this place into a gigantic, gargantuan
Bouncy castle.
hellhole.
Bouncy castle.
They don't want it to be a bouncy castle.
Okay.
I've gone with hellhole.
That's the artificial
I'm gonna
pitch.
stick with
Just
it.
gone now.
So I guess they've got a chance to sort of really, really take it down to the trenches. But the problem is, West Ham are very, very comfortable without the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that would be Luton's best defence. Just let them have the ball. Go on. Don't seem to like this, do you?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just crumble.
They need to turn this stadium into a fucking dental surgery.
There you go.
There we go.
No one wants to be there.
Back alley dental surgery.
No one wants to be No one wants to be there. It's painful. You never forget it,
Yeah.
and you're not in a hurry to go back.
That's
They
right.
shake you down for a few quid as well.
Exactly. And you go there once every 6 months.
It's true though.
Yeah,
Depends who you are.
Well, you should.
American listeners watching this will be going,
Every 6 years.
yeah.
All right, fair
What
enough.
do you think?
I think I agree with everything you
Good.
just said there. I think, though, that West Ham will be very comfortable if they do have the ball. And West Ham, with the start they've had, they are big favourites as well. We'll talk more about some of their individual players when we talk about the England squad. But the two players who, of course, didn't get in the England squad, James Ward-Prowse and Jarrod Bowen, have been brilliant. And the anger that they will feel about not being in the England squad, I think they should take it out on Luton Town. So there we are. But then Ross Barkley,
Yeah.
he's not really in the England squad contention these
So
days.
he's dead to you, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, basically. What do you think of UEFA announcing that they will not be adopting the Premier League stoppage time rule, calling it absurd?
I think if UEFA get an opportunity in an official release to call someone else absurd, it tells you everything you need to know about how bad you are. That's what I think.
Yeah, okay.
UEFA think it's a bad idea. Imagine how bad it must be. Either that or it must be a good idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not really too sure.
My serious answer about this whole thing is that, and I don't think I've had a chance to talk about this on the show this season, is that clearly something needs to be done about the amount of time wasted we see. I think it's quite an admirable thing on its own terms to want the ball to be in play more often because fans are paying to watch, et cetera, et cetera. The way they've gone about doing it, I think, is really tone deaf and actually probably not very practical for millions of different reasons that people already understand. And I think part of me thinks that the other alternative would be, of course, to just stop the clock when the ball's out of play and do 30-minute halves.
Okay.
The problem is that 90 minutes, quote unquote 90 minutes, is such a big part of the fabric of football.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're considering that. So it's one of those situations where I also think it's a bit silly, but I also think something needs to be done. I also want to take into account the fact that players are playing too much football as it is, and I don't know what the solution is apart from this. So I can't think of an alternative as the problem. And if anyone else can, then by all means shout.
Well, I mean, it's naturally a stop-start game, isn't it? There's perhaps an argument that it needs to be that way for the fitness of the players involved. And this idea of just like, we all know there's too much football, and that we see, we're seeing the consequences of years and years of a bunched up schedule now. We seem to be getting all these injuries coming out of nowhere. The likelihood is it's the accumulation of all that football in those players' legs. And the solution is more football, make the football longer. It's just fascinating every single time.
I mean, I think where people get annoyed about time wasting is, of course, at the end of the game, really. And when it's in injury time, they always you see if a team whacks the ball into the crowd, the other team will say to the referee, "Oi, come on, what the clock." So to me, it's kind of keep it as it is. But once it gets to injury time, then you stop the clock if the ball goes out of play. Injury time.
That's a nice idea. Yeah,
I just think that's it, because I think the idea of stopping the clock and when the ball goes out of play, I just don't think it's practical. I just don't think that's how it goes. And you'd have games finishing all sorts of time. As you say, there's more football, blah-de-blah-de-blah. You want to know a hard start time and a rough end time. A fairly reasonably accurate sort of
Well, you got somewhere to be.
Usually.
Sometimes.
Home, Jim.
Well, and then here's the thing. It's funny that UEFA have called it absurd. You wonder whether that's again, because every time you hear about UEFA making statements, or FIFA making statements, or making plans, or changing things, it always, I feel like, needs to be seen in the context of this big continuous battle between UEFA and FIFA. Part of me feels like UEFA are saying what they're saying because, of course, FIFA introduced it in the World Cup, right? And so they don't like it as an idea, presumably because it wasn't their idea. It'll be interesting to see how they approach it in the Euros next year, and how UEFA try and tackle it next year, because it's clearly a problem that needs to be solved.
Yeah, indeed. Sheffield United are at home to Everton on Saturday at 12:30. Will we see much time wasting here, or will it just feel like that, Jim?
Possibly, but actually, you know what? The FA and the Premier League get a lot of criticism, but actually putting this fixture on at 12:30 on the Saturday is good, because it's going to make a lot of people reassess their life choices if they're already hungover.
Yeah.
It could be a really good opportunity for people to go, fuck me, what am I doing myself? Look at, oh God, I can find no joy in anything. Look at the state of this.
I couldn't think of a more depressing thing to hear on this show than you saying that.
Do you not?
Just you saying Sheffield United versus Everton, Saturday lunchtime.
It's the preview show, and we're not looking forward to this one going into the weekend.
It's the first
Looking forward to the lunch bit.
It's the first time I've seen a game put on telly and I've gone, why have I done that?
Yeah,
Why?
but come on.
Why?
I know you're a big six man at heart.
I'd rather watch Come Dine With Me.
No, you wouldn't. No,
Four in a bed. I'd rather watch Four in a bed.
Look, both Everton and Sheffield United are looking for their first points of the season, so something's got to give, Jim.
Put the shipping forecast on alongside it instead of listening to the commentary, and see which one you concentrate on more.
Yeah. I'm one of the few people who unfortunately watched Everton on Wednesday night. Diabolical.
Everton, off the back of a victory in the Cup.
They were in the first half, particularly against Doncaster on Wednesday. They were abysmal, but diabolically bad.
But they showed character overcoming that and going through, did they not?
Well, Pardew gave Doncaster the old kiss of death, didn't he? He did the old Steve McLaren.
I should say that obviously Everton won 2-1 in that game, and Doncaster are bottom of League 2
Yeah.
right now. But a win's a win's a win, Jim. A win's a win. There's no goal difference in the Cup, is there?
No.
They're into the next round.
Got their first goals of the season.
So Doncaster are basically technically the worst team in the Football League, as we said. I know it's early in the season, so it leaving itself out, I'm sure. They were miles better than Everton in the first half.
Yeah.
Miles better.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even close.
Who were Doncaster playing in the next round?
No one.
Right.
They're out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Premier League quality shined through.
What I would say is that Beto, who the forward they've signed, who scored,
made a difference, didn't he?
He was the best player. He was their best player.
Do you think he was angry and thought, for crying, I'll sort this out? Or did you think after the game he was like, what have I done?
Well,
who knows?
I mean, there was talk that he used to work in a branch of KFC not that long ago. So he's probably just thinking, great.
This is all right.
Yeah, this is as good as some of the shifts at KFC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And slightly better than working in an off licence near West Ham's ground.
It's better than serving the customers, slightly worse than working on the drive-through bit. That's probably what he's thinking.
There you go. Well, their opponents, Sheffield United, they lost to League One Lincoln City on penalties. So tough luck for Sheffield United in the Cup, but it does show you.
Absolutely screams 0-0, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really does. Did you see that Lincoln goalkeeper Lucas Jensen said after the game, I think they nicked my bottle, so I couldn't see where they were going to shoot, because obviously he had it written down on his notes. They still went through.
Yeah.
But Sheffield United, though, on a serious matter, talking about that game against Manchester City, they did play it quite well. I mean, to nearly get a point off the champions, is a good performance by any Premier League team, mostly you would say. But for a newly promoted side as well, And it took a superb goal from Rodri to win it. That will give them a bit of confidence, Jim.
Oh, absolutely. And
confidence has been dashed by Lincoln.
The Carabao Cup is not their priority, is it? And actually,
they've lost every game they've played this season.
Jim, it can't be now.
No, it can't.
No, imagine that. No, it's still our priority. We're out, but we're going to go watch.
We are turning up to that next round.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be targeting this one as their first 3 points, surely, because Everton's confidence is so low. They're at home. Again, they also need to make it a castle or a fortress or whatever.
They've, I mean, I suppose it's slim pickings really, but they've been on the end of 4 defeats, and every single one of them has been by the odd goal, with the exception of the Lincoln City game, which is on penalty. So it's been a narrow kind of thing. Having said that, I cannot tell you how bad I think Everton are.
Yeah,
they're terrible. And so if you don't beat them at home at this stage of the season, you really do need to be, heading home, packing all your stuff up and heading home.
Well, that's why I think the Sheffield United, they'll look at this and they'll think, right, lads, come on. It's a shame for them, obviously, there's that Lincoln City result. But against Forest, they would have felt that they should have got something out of the game. Again, with Manchester City, the same thing. So they've shown a bit of something, I would say, in the league. Not the League Cup, I stress in the league. Whereas Everton... They will have felt that they would have, they played quite well against Fulham and got nothing. But that first game of the season, and that already feels like a distant memory. I think that Sheffield United will be thinking, "Come on, this is ours."
I mean, they made a lot of chances against Fulham, though.
They did, and Leno, who's been in fine form, kept them out. But there's something about that Everton performance. Whereas with Sheffield United and maybe one or two other sides, you would say, well, at least they're creating chances. At least they're doing it. With Everton, it just seems that there's nothing positive at the moment. And instead of people saying, well, at least they're creating chances, it seems they can't score those chances. Like even when they create them, they score. And it's ultimately the same thing, but it's seen in a different light. And I just wonder if that sense of doom and gloom is already at Everton this season.
Well, definitely.
I mean, Beto got 10 goals through Udinese last season. If he can get close to that again, that'll be a huge, huge lifeline for them. And just having a focal point like that, and obviously that's what Calvert-Lewin's supposed to be, but unfortunately he keeps getting injured. So I mean,
well, he's a big boy, isn't he?
Surely then. 6'4", is it?
6'4", and you would think Dice should know what to do with a 6'4" striker. All joking aside.
You just think surely they can't be as consistently bad as they've been so far for a whole season.
Yeah, true. I mean, but the thing is though, but with a team like Sheffield United, you have a 6'4" striker and think, right, let's get crosses and all the rest of it. Well, actually, that's something that a team like Sheffield United are prepared for, because that's you have faced a lot of that in the Championship.
They'd like a bit of that. Probably.
Exactly. So we might see a bit of an old-fashioned game here. And we pray that there will be some bloody goals, for crying out loud. We shall see. Gentlemen, let's go up the table to Brighton. There's a fascinating transfer at large here. Ansu Fati is set to complete a loan move to Brighton, which is quite stunning, really.
It is.
Considering, Brighton doing business with Barcelona, but not just Barcelona. This is a player who so highly rated and seen as one of their great prospects and the player who came through the academy. Now, he is going on loan, we stress, and he's had his injuries, which is perhaps why they're happy to see him go for at least a season. But
he's a genuine wonder kid.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're letting him go, but then Barcelona...
But there's no option to buy. There's no option to buy.
Barcelona are just, it's a bit of a basket case, and it has been for a couple of years, and he is quite injury-prone, it would seem. And Barcelona are hoping that Brighton can regenerate him and kind of develop him a bit, because of what's going on there. They've got a great reputation now, Brighton, and so on. And apparently Ansu Fati was impressed with Brighton, and he wanted to work with De Zerbi because he had other options. Sevilla tried to hijack the deal and try to get in there, but he has been seen arriving in England. So unless he's particularly polite and he wanted to say no thanks in person, it looks like he's going to be at Brighton.
Seville's a bit fucking brisk today.
Yeah.
I think
what's that horrible beast in the sky?
Assuming it all goes through, I think it's a tremendously exciting move for Brighton. Andy talked about his fitness issues. I mean, he came through as a genuine wonder kid.
Yeah,
like incredible talent. Obviously plays off a left. Got a can opening right foot. But then had that really bad meniscus tear, didn't he? At a very, very young age, which is obviously, on one hand you think, he can recover quick because he's young, but it's not a great sign to tear a meniscus that young. But he's just a credible talent and a really exciting player to watch. One of those players who carries the ball, one of those players who when he gets the ball at his feet and he's on form, you kind of sit up and take notice. What's he going to do? The interesting thing for me is that his best position is off the left.
Well, I was going to say,
and that's where Matoma plays.
Yeah, and
who's probably one of their most exciting attacking players.
Yeah, but
so they've got a little bit of a mix and a blend there.
Well, this is kind of the point, right? They're in the Europa League this season. That's a big step up for Brighton. They've not had to compete with that many games before, like really ever in sort of the modern game. So that they need that kind of season-proofed squad. And given the fact it's a loan, it's another brilliant bit of business from them.
Yeah, I think with Brighton, you need to capitalise.
I think they'll sell him to Man City for like 150 million. He's not your player, Brighton. No, this is what we do. It's what we do.
If there's any club where you could probably get away with that, it is Barcelona, isn't it? I mean, they forgot what they own, what they own.
Yeah.
That's true.
We'll buy him back. You don't need to. We'll give you 100 million. We'll get rid of Coutinho. He's already gone.
Yeah, he went ages ago. Oh, blimey.
Do you fancy Luis Suarez? He's retired, guys. Come on. Sorry, I've actually got 2020's books here. Sorry.
I think with
Burn them.
It shows you with where Brighton are, and you've got to capitalise when you're on the up. You've got to show ambition, and that is an ambitious one. But you've got to make sure you don't unsettle the squad and what's going on. And I don't think the squad will be unsettled.
Gives them a boost, though, won't it?
It does give them a boost.
That quality.
It does indeed, yeah. But you do have to be careful. But I don't think that's what the situation is. I think with Brighton, you've got to build. Because you don't just go, do you know what, we're really happy with just finishing the top 10 in the Premier League and whatnot. Build gradually and so on. And this is a sign that it's happening. And people, Fati himself was attracted to Brighton because of what's been going on there.
And I think it's a great thing for the fans as well. They never mention enough fans when we talk about football, unless it's like a negative thing. Like, think of what Brighton fans have been through.
Yeah.
Now they're on the cusp. I mean, Fabrizio Romano is reporting it's happening.
Yeah.
So you can read into that what you will. The fact you're a Brighton fan, you're basically signing a wonder kid on loan from Barcelona because you really want to build for your Europa League campaign. It's an incredible set of circumstances for them.
It is, yeah. Speaking of Romano, at the time of recording, there's a lot of chat about Joao Palhinha joining Bayern.
Did we fuck it? Is this our fault? It all started to move forward as soon as we mentioned it.
If it is your fault, then
no, our fault.
Well, it's not my fault.
What's happened is agents have been listening to this show, and you said earlier this week he's the best player you've ever seen in a Fulham shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, all of a sudden he's going to Bayern Munich. Is it a coincidence?
Well, I'm just doing it.
Tastemaker.
Yeah, but I'm doing it to protect Tom Kearney. See, no one's coming in for him, are they?
He's playing 3D chess, Jim.
They are. You
Marcus
can have Palhinha. We'll keep Kearney.
Seriously, though, you are gutted, aren't you?
Absolutely gutted. I thought to myself, if Palhinha's playing for Fulham against Man City on Saturday, it may keep the score down. If he's not playing, oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear, oh dear. Look, he's a phenomenal player and he should be playing for a better side. There's no two ways about that. And I'm glad that it's, because there was chat about West Ham, and as much as we love West Ham and what they're doing, Palhinha, Bayern are coming in for him, Liverpool were in for him. Yeah. That is how good he is.
I can exclusively reveal that before we started recording, Marcus was watching a compilation of Palhinha's best slide tackles for Fulham, like a divorced detective in an action movie.
Yeah. Or as he calls it, Friday.
Yeah. Just one more slide tackle.
Yeah. He's been responsible for something like 25% of all Fulham slide tackles at the start of last season.
I think all of the slide tackles in the Premier League.
Yeah, that would be... Oh, now you're talking.
In Europe.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a quick break.
It's mad how quick it changed.
Did they?
Yeah. So, for me to go in with Duncan, obviously Stubbsy, obviously all of them who I've grew up watching, and to then go and play with them, train with them every day and play with them, and then so quickly, I remember thinking, these are crap.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody.
Such a great quote.
Yeah.
Bless him.
Yeah. You think he's going to say something so... He's going to say how they were such a big influence, and he's going to say something really lovely and whatnot, and nah.
Probably one of the only men in the country not to be frightened of Duncan Ferguson as well.
I'd say so.
And rightly so, because Rooney would probably hold his own. It's a bit of a mismatch in terms of height, but I think Rooney would hold his own.
I think he would.
That's right. Phil Bardsley's music.
Right, everybody, let's talk about the England squad. Gareth Southgate has announced his squad for this month's Euros qualifier against Ukraine and that anniversary friendly against Scotland. Jim Campbell, I put it to you that this is an excellent squad, and Gareth's got it right again.
It's not controversial in any way, shape or
Jim,
form, is it?
Before, just give people a little glimpse behind the curtain as you just did with Marcus there.
Come on.
I actually took the liberty of writing down what he actually said outside the studio.
Oh, sod off.
You mentioned about the controversy around this England squad. People are idiots, Jim. It's a fucking brilliant squad. is what you said. They're your exact words. So perhaps you'd like to comment further on that.
Well, I would just put it to the listeners. Is that really what I said? Is that believable? Answers on a postcard. So, yes, I mean, let's... So Luke Shaw, Tyrone Mings and John Stones are out injured. So, obviously, you need a bit of experience at the back. And whatnot, and that's why Harry Maguire's in.
Yeah. I think also we're playing Scotland, aren't we? So is that perhaps a very subtle sign of disrespect?
I'm fed up myself of talking about Harry Maguire in England.
He's had so many opportunities to move on from Harry Maguire.
Yeah,
and I understand the idea of consistency and the relationships in the dressing room are important, but I think Maguire at this point, we know he's a player who needs to play to take the mistakes out of his game, and he's not playing. Yeah. It just seems.
Well, I think the reason he's not, the reason he's in there is because of those injuries there. I mean, again, I would sort of say to people, well, who else would you have instead?
Well, it's an opportunity to bring a young player through.
Well, fair enough.
Fancy player through.
Well, Levi Colwill's in there, which I think people will be very happy about. Lewis Dunk's in there because he's deserved it. What he's done over the years. Mark Gay, of course, is now sort of semi-regular in the squad. I'm pleased to see Fikayo Tomori
still in there,
in the squad to come back. So yeah, I mean, as I say, there's key injuries. I'm quite sure that if Stones and Mings were not injured, I don't think Maguire would have been in the squad.
Yeah, and I think really the centre back thing is I don't think that controversial. I know I've been pretty critical of Harry Maguire, and that's we haven't got to do that again.
Yeah.
And when you make the point you make about Dunk and about Colwill and the fact that there's injuries, it's kind of fair enough. Right? He's going to do that because that's just what he's like.
So what's annoyed you then?
Well, the controversy around it should be, in my view, well, there's two things. One is that, and one is the midfield situation, which I'll come on to in a minute. The other thing is that not picking Jarrod Bowen, not picking James Ward-Prowse when he's picked him before. And
Look at you. I love the fact that you've...
But it's not my opinion. That's not the point. My opinion on it is irrelevant. The point, he's picked James Ward-Prowse, but he's been in much worse form than he is at the moment.
Your opinion is quite relevant. This is a football podcast.
Well, finally someone who agrees. And the key... So there's players that you can always kind of argue about. Raheem Sterling's been in great form as well.
But when you say about Sterling...
An interesting one in particular.
Yeah, so Sterling's a bit unhappy that he's not included. Southgate knows what Sterling brings to the party. Okay, so you're saying about trying younger players. You're saying about Jarrod Bowen. So who do you drop for Jarrod Bowen then? Eberechi Eze?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. That would be Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, James Maddison, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka. Who are you dropping?
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
It's a strong squad.
Yeah, I mean,
but you can also, I mean, you don't have to look at it in that much of a linear fashion.
Right.
You could also say, do they really need that amount of central midfield players? Some of whom aren't playing.
Yeah, okay, you can take Calvin Phillips out for one of those.
Well, this is the thing.
Yeah, but Southgate made the point. He said in that sort of pivot role, as people sometimes call it, you've got Declan Rice. Who else have you got? What other English player do you have? Now, some people suggest that James Ward-Prowse could do it, but he doesn't play in that system. And Southgate's had a good look at him. Southgate even mentioned maybe Conor Gallagher could do it, but he said quickly, but that's clearly not his best position. Who else do you have? He said Calvin Phillips is the only other English player who is equipped to play in that position.
We think, based on the last time we saw him, which was about 18 months ago.
I understand that point of view, but he's hamstrung. I mean,
I think actually come on to the second point.
Okay.
The big controversy for me is Jordan Henderson being in the squad.
Okay.
And the reason I think that is because he's clearly playing at a standard which is an absolute joke. Right, let's be clear about that. Let's get it right.
Cristiano Ronaldo plays in that
league. The
league,
standard he's playing at is a joke.
Mitrovic plays.
And it also sends absolutely the wrong message for England under Gareth Southgate to be picking players currently playing in Saudi Arabia. This iteration of the England team has been built on inclusivity, modernity, acceptance. Southgate has restored the England team's popularity by getting all these big calls right, these social calls, these things, how the England team represents the country, how it represents our values, how it represents the public, connecting it with the public after the nadir of what came before, which we don't need to go into. What kind of message does it send to LGBT fans of England's team to say, oh, it's one thing for Jordan Henderson to make a decision off his own back, despite the stuff he said in the past. He's gonna flip on it. He's gonna reverse on that, and he's gonna go and do his thing for himself.
I think that's,
and maybe you can justify that.
I don't
to carry on picking Jordan Henderson for this England team based on what this England team represents and based on the standard of football he's playing at.
Come on,
Luke,
that's harsh.
It's a disgrace.
No, it's not a disgrace. That's so harsh on Henderson there.
Why?
Because Henderson himself does. You can say that Henderson's a disgrace for going to Sarah, and then he starts spouting, oh, well, this is what I've learned from my new kingdom. So that's just not...
Okay, let me ask you
Henderson is representing England when he plays for England. He's not representing the Kingdom of Saudi
Let me ask you a question.
He's also a representative of that league in there now.
what about the standard of football in Saudi Arabia do you think makes him qualified to play for England?
Okay, well, that's a different point.
Well,
The social stuff we can agree to disagree on. Okay, but this is about an England squad here. I just refer you to Southgate's comments himself. He said that we've watched the games. We're not sure about the quality of the league, so he's aware. Look, if we're questioning the quality of the league, I think the England manager will be more aware of that himself. I haven't watched any of Henderson. I've seen a few clips. He talked about the quality, what Henderson will bring. Da-di-da-di-da. Do you then just completely chop him from the squad? A player who's been very important for England, both on and off the pitch, in terms of I'm not talking about the social issues you've just mentioned there. I'm talking about in among the squad. He's brought him back in there on merit, really. And I think it would be quite harsh for him to say, after a few games, just to go, right now, you're dead to me.
No, I think you say, there's nothing wrong with saying, by the way, I mean, presumably he's got some kind of good relationship with him. He's his vice captain. He's played for him for years.
Of course.
He calls him up and he says, if you go to Saudi Arabia, no hard feelings, up to you. You won't be eligible for this.
Well, he's keeping an eye on the situation. And I think right now, it's too early to say. But I think that...
What, so suddenly you're not entirely sure whether Saudi Arabia's got a good quality of standard?
Well, no, I think it depends on Henderson's performances, his fitness, and what he could bring.
I guess it will also depend in Southgate's mind on whether, however many months in Saudi Arabia is enough for your quality to drop significantly.
And I think that's it.
But I don't think he's
33 years old. He's got about 80 caps.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah, well, I
think it's a good time to move him on. There are players that need to be cycled out of the squad. He is one. Maguire's another. This is an opportunity to do it, and I think it's a shame it's not been taken slightly differently from that as well.
I wouldn't hugely kick back on that.
If we may go back to the defence.
Yes, we may.
It's no one's really sure what's happened with Ben White in England.
Yeah.
But I think it's in everybody's interest to deal with it and get him back into the fold. He's a fantastic defender, very versatile, and it's very strange that he doesn't seem to be under consideration.
Yeah,
I don't know whether that's.
I'd also say
I'm sort of reluctant to sort of speculate on what it is.
Yeah, because we've heard conflicting reports.
We have, yeah. But I agree with what you're saying, Jim.
I'd also, and then maybe you're going to come back to me and say who you're going to drop for him, and so I understand that. But I do want to give him a mention because I think it's fair. It's part of the conversation. I think it's really unfair on Solly March not to get picked. Yeah. What kind of message are we sending? Southgate, I know this is a number of years ago now, maybe he's changed his opinion, who knows. But he kind of talks about being picking players on form. He kind of talked about how, players just got used to always being picked for England. You hear Paul Scholes a bit before that saying, I used to get picked for England even though I knew I was in bad form, all this kind of other stuff. Solly March has been sensational for a very, very long time. To not even give him, I'll tell you, a kind of anniversary friendly against Scotland, but an ideal time to say, in you come, enjoy yourself. Here's what it's all about. We may need you. Come. Who knows what's going to happen in 6 months to a year's time? We may need you.
Yeah.
And Southgate seemed to, I don't know if you remember this, Marcus, but a number of years ago, Southgate seemed to be pretty good at bringing players through who you might need to rely on in the future and give them a flavour of the setup and see what it's all about. It just feels to me there's quite a few players who seem to be overlooked, and so it's a bit of a shame. Really.
I mean, you yourself have said in the past, Luke, that an England call-up isn't a sort of like a Player of the Month award, and there are a few players getting first call-ups. Eddie Nketiah, Levi Colwill. We've got to be kind of careful to maybe not do too many at once. That might be.
But March has been sensational for ages. Well, there's no way Nketiah gets picked for that squad if he's not playing for Arsenal.
The only thing
but he is playing for Arsenal. He's playing well for Arsenal. I think he's there on merit, and I think if you look at the forwards in that team, can you argue that Solly March is a better player than any of them? Really, I don't know.
I don't think you can, and I think with Solly March, I just think
it's hard to get in an England squad.
It is hard to get in an England squad, especially if you're a wide player right now, because you can say, well, what if England were wanting to play wing backs? Well, Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell on one side, Kyle Walker, Reece James. You could even have Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is listed as a midfielder, by the way, interestingly enough. Trippier as well. Unfortunately, England are stacked in the places where Solly March would play. And Solly March is playing for a particular club in a particular system and is doing brilliantly. And yes, I agree that, if he finishes his career, and he's 29 as well, he's not 21. If he finishes his career without an England cap, you go, well, a little bit unlucky. But there are better players or more controversial non-picks, if you like, that have suffered this more so than Solly March. So yeah, I understand that, but I wouldn't lose too much sleep over that one. I mean, again, these are the more bittier decisions. England will not win or lose a tournament if Solly March is there or not. The same as say, but I'd have Ollie Watkins in there. Yeah, of course, Ollie Watkins is a good player.
Unlucky one.
Maybe.
But that's always a different conversation because Harry Kane. Like basically, you're only ever picking players like that. as a backup for Harry Kane.
Yeah.
And I think when you're talking about being a wide attacking player, you're talking about perhaps different styles of interpreting that role for different challenges. I think you can make much more of an argument for picking a certain type of wide player for the challenge that you face, rather than no one's ever going to start ahead of Harry Kane as a striker. It's just not going to happen.
Sure, but I think that England have got so many options and varied options in those wide roles that I think, again, Solly March, it's a shame for him. I understand it. Brighton fans will be annoyed. But again, England will not win or lose a tournament because he's in the squad or not, or go far. That would be my opinion there. But, we shall see how the lads get on, of course, in due course against Ukraine and then against Scotland. Right, chaps, on Sunday at 4:30, Arsenal face Manchester United. Last season, of course, Manchester United beat Arsenal 3-1 at Old Trafford, and then Arsenal won 3-2 at the Emirates. So Manchester United won on aggregate last season. Are you looking to see what Arsenal can do in the home leg this time?
I am. I'm looking forward to it, actually. It's one of the strange things about this season so far that I wasn't really expecting, despite Arteta talking about how he wanted Arsenal to be a lot less predictable, or perhaps more unpredictable, is probably a better way of phrasing it, is that I myself have absolutely no idea what sort of team he's going to put out or what sort of tactics that team will play. I mean, there's been a lot of controversy about, Thomas Partey at right back and various other tactical switches that haven't quite clicked into gear yet. I wonder if he'll persevere with that or if he'll change back to something more similar to what we saw last season. I would assume Zinchenko would start, and that would probably be the case, but I just don't know. And so I don't know how to feel. Part of me feels confident. There's certainly an iteration of this team that could certainly hit the ground running and be really good. But there's also the slightly clunkier version that I'd be a little bit wary of. Ideally, we won't concede a goal in the first minute again, but you never know.
I get the impression that Arteta is doing a lot of the tinkering in a way that, as you say, Guardiola, one of his mentors, does, and it can. A few teething problems at the start, and then suddenly it gets going, and it's like, oh my goodness, that's what they've been working on. Flipping heck, this fluid system, we don't know where they're going to go. They're hard to predict, and that's obviously what he's building towards. Early on in the season, as I say, teething problems, but against the Manchester United side, who have got gaping gaps in their midfield.
Yeah. Varane missing now as well.
Yeah, my temptation, if I was Arteta, would be, right, let's go back to what we know, because we can hurt this team. Whereas if he doesn't, you've got two teams with gaps in the midfield.
Yeah.
And you think, well, who's going to exploit who?
Well, I mean, the midfield actually is a little bit congested, if anything, because you got players like inverting into it. So, maybe a gap in the midfield will play into Arteta's current way of playing a bit more than the previous way.
Yeah, true.
Or as he's known these days, Kai Havertz.
Kai, it's a chance for him.
Yeah, well, there's obviously question marks over him. Some Arsenal fans not that happy with his contribution so far. Partey playing at right back, as you said, Jim. They've obviously had Timber's been injured in his first game, and that's the end of that for a long while, right?
Mm-hmm, possibly the season.
Yeah, it's such a shame.
It is really,
it's
really
a real shame.
And I think what he's staving off, I guess, is just the idea that they can't relax. They can't kind of just think, okay, this is us now. We're the second or third, whatever, best team in the Premier League, and that's how it's going to be. Got other challenges this season as well with the Champions League, of course, too. So. It's quite interesting that he learned whatever he learned under Pep Guardiola, and now he seems kind of content to do that himself. I think what Jim said a couple of weeks ago was quite interesting, the idea that he understands that Arsenal need to become a team that can overcome a variety of different challenges. Yeah. But I think with this kind of game, given the fact that it's at the Emirates and Arsenal are obviously a good team, I've seen enough from Man United this season to know that they can definitely be got at, particularly in that midfield area, as you say. So you'd hope he'd go back to basics a little bit. I mean, Bukayo Saka's record against United is sensational as well. So presumably he can have a little bit of joy too. So but it's a great Sunday afternoon treat.
Right, and now it's time for this.
Dean Smith also says you're an encyclopedia of football.
A what?
An encyclopedia of football.
I don't know what that means.
Yes, it is time for Jack's Encyclopedia. If you've not heard it before, it is a simple game of categories. I'll give Luke and Marcus a category. All they have to do is give me an answer that fits into that category. If they're going too slow, I'll play Gary Neville's Goalgasm, and that will leave them 7 seconds. So are we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. And a lot of people, listen, I'm just putting this out there. A lot of people are saying that I'm starting to emerge as a bit of a dark horse in this game this season. Last season was
very
a joke,
fine people.
disgrace. Yeah, a lot of very fine people on both sides are saying that I'm a bit of a dark horse. So, you might think of it as a bit of a mismatch. Marcus, the super heavyweight against me.
Yeah, but I've started
the bantamweight.
The bantamweight. I've started terribly this season. I feel like last season I got my title, and I'm like Leicester City now. Whatever.
It's early days.
It's early days.
There's a long way to go.
I just think I'm a little horse, Jim.
I think you are a little horse.
Championship Leicester City, everyone.
We're going to start with you, little horse.
What?
Yeah, you've won one this season.
I'm not sure it makes a difference.
I can't improve my record if the fucking regime are against me.
I love your regime, Jim.
Right. So the first category is captains of Liverpool since Bob Paisley's departure in 1983. There are 13 players.
Flipping heck.
Marcus, you're up first.
Jordan Henderson.
Jordan Henderson is correct.
Steven Gerrard.
Steven Gerrard is obviously also correct.
Virgil van Dijk.
Ooh.
Is correct.
This season.
Yeah, as of this season.
Okay, I'll have a punt here.
Go on.
Emlyn Hughes.
Emlyn Hughes. Emlyn Hughes is not there.
Yeah, a bit before that, I think.
Lovely to hear his name.
Yeah.
What a character. Emlyn Hughes. There's so many big players
that
Liverpool have had. You think, sure, no.
Well, I was thinking, the problem is the year.
Yeah.
I was
Throws you.
I was possibly going to go with Jamie Carragher, but that's probably not true.
That also wasn't true.
So you read the list, because there's going to be some big players in there.
Yeah, there are some. Speaking of big players.
Graham Souness.
Big players. Graham Souness is there.
Would Bruce Grobbelaar be in there?
Alan, he wasn't. Alan Hansen was in there twice.
Hansen,
I'll read the list.
yeah.
So it's Alan Hansen, Graham Souness, Ian Rush,
Yeah.
Jamie Redknapp, John Barnes, also twice, Jordan
Barnes.
Henderson, Mark Wright, Paul Ince, Phil Neal, Robbie Fowler, Ronnie Whelan twice, Sammy Hippier, Steven Gerrard, and of course Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah.
Good point to you,
So
Marcus.
that is a point to Marcus.
You don't think of strikers like Fowler and Rush being, you wouldn't think of a striker being.
Redknapp's a bit of a rogue.
It's a
Redknapp was
surprise one as well,
player.
yeah.
Good
He
player
was.
back in the day.
Right, so moving on to round two, the last 20 winners of the PFA Player of the Year Award. We're obviously going to start with you, Luke. So that's the last 20 winners of the PFA Player of the Year Award. There are, of course, 20.
Yeah, okay. So I guess this is because someone's just been named it, and that's Erling Haaland, so I'll start with him.
Erling Haaland is, funnily enough, there.
Mo Salah.
Mo Salah, correct.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Of course.
Kevin De Bruyne.
He's correct.
Yeah, don't want to doubt myself.
Thierry Henry.
Absolutely. It's a good game.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
I'll go for.
I need you to go for them.
You are.
Press that button, fucking hell.
It's Torres
Surely-
to give Chelsea a place
Paul
in the
Scholes?
Champions League final.
Paul Scholes.
The deadline has been written.
Oh, you think he
Afraid
would have
not,
been?
mate. No, afraid not.
Okay, so I went first, right?
You
So I get
did,
the point.
so that's
You
your
do.
point.
So
So
who
we
did
are
we miss?
tied at 1-1. So I'll read you the full list.
I was the other ones I had were Steven Gerrard
He's on there.
and Ruud van Nistelrooy was in it.
Also on there, yeah. So
Yeah.
you'd have been right there. So it was the full list is Cristiano Ronaldo, David Ginola, Eden Hazard, Erling Haaland, Gareth Bale, Kevin De Bruyne, John Terry, Luis Suarez, Mo Salah, and N'Golo Conte, Riyad Mahrez, Robin van Persie, Roy Keane, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Ryan Giggs, Steven Gerrard, Teddy Sheringham, Thierry Henry, Virgil van Dijk, and Wayne Rooney.
Man United midfield, Giggs, Scholes,
Yeah.
Keane, and Beckham. I remember Beckham didn't get it. I thought the other three had
Scholes is surprising.
So Marcus, you are up again.
Here we go.
So
Decider.
the final round, it's quite a tough one actually, I have to say. Players Ole Gunnar Solskjaer signed for Manchester United as listed on Transfer Market, which is 14 players.
Wow.
It's a tough one.
Wow. That is a really tough one. I can only think of one.
I'm quite sure he signed Bruno Fernandes.
And you'd be correct.
Oh, the only one I can think of, which is possibly true, is Jadon Sancho.
Also correct.
Oh, man.
Was there a little while?
Yeah.
Harry Maguire.
Casemiro?
Casemiro. Unfortunately not.
It's annoying. Marcus gets his wins button.
Marcus gets his win button.
Marcus
There it is.
wins.
Yes!
I thought he came in just to kind of fight the fire before.
No. It was only January of this year, was it not, that Casemiro
That's
came
right,
in?
that's right.
Yeah,
Very
okay.
much a Ten
How
Hag
quickly we
signing.
forget. Yeah. So the full list was Aaron Wan-Bissaka,
Rafael Varane.
Alex Telles, Amad Diallo, Bruno Fernandes, Cristiano Ronaldo, could have
Oh!
had, Dan James, Donny van der Beek, Edinson Cavani, Facundo Pellistri, Harry Maguire, Jadon Sancho, Odion Igalo,
Yeah.
Rafael Varane and Tom Heaton.
There you go. Tommy Heaton.
So there we go.
Didn't need him.
Spells you
No,
wins.
I'd have felt better if you'd have beaten me with a Tom Heaton shout.
Yeah, okay, fair
That
enough.
would have been what the listeners deserved.
But I beat you with Harry Maguire.
You did, which is in its
Very
own way
fitting.
poetic.
What a way to end the show, everybody.
Yeah.
Just like Sheffield United seeing Everton coming over the hill. That's what I felt like. The points are on the board. And we're back in business, everybody.
Yeah, here's hoping Wolves smash Crystal Palace.
Oh, hate charity now, dear. Don't have a go at charity.
If I've got to choose between you and charity,
Am I not charity to you?
yes,
There we
some
are,
would call
you
it that.
see.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening to the Football Ramble preview show, part of the Acast Creator Network. Join us for Ramble Reacts tomorrow lunchtime with Luke and Andy. It's going to be a belter.
I've got to do this again tomorrow. Bloody hell, there's no rest for the wicked.
Certainly not, and you are wicked, mate. Follow us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Football Ramble, and don't forget to subscribe on your podcast app. The weekend is officially open.
Get your keys out,
There
lads.
we are. Come on. Pitbulls in your ears, and we're going to have a lovely old time. Thank you, Luke Moore. Thank you, Jim Campbell. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Cheers for watching another fantastic clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Make sure you click like on this video and subscribe to the channel, which means you will not miss a single upload.